Hello, everyone around the world. Welcome. Bienvenidos, que quiero decirte, to Coloring My Way Across the Globe. I'm your host, Lauren Battistini, color consultant, artist, language learner, and world traveler. Join me each week as I chronicle the most colorful people, places, and experiences I encounter off the beaten path, both near and far. So, let's go. Vámonos, que pame. Welcome back to another episode, but another season of Coloring My Way Across the Globe. We are launching season 2 today, ladies and gentlemen, all over the world. And as much as I enjoyed season 1, boy, do we have a lot in store for season 2. And so let's get started right away. So today we have a guest who is spectacular. Her name is Devaki Das, and she was originally born in Mumbai, India, and now resides in or around the DC area. And she is the Chief Visionary Officer of Weave 1,000 Journeys. And I'm going to let Deb tell you all about that today in the episode. But before I do, I want to say that what's struck me as so fabulous about her, many things, but she comes from this long line of family who has this curiosity of life. They love the finer things. And her parents, Deb's parents, instilled in her from a young age this love of architecture and color and culinary and all things as such. So without further ado, let me introduce to you all Devaki Das. Welcome to the show, Dev.
Thank you, Lauren. It's so wonderful to hear your voice again, to be with you again. I am so excited to be on the podcast, Coloring My Way Across the Globe. From the first time we spoke, I just knew we were going to be instant friends. I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much. You are just wonderful.
Well, it is my pleasure. And I concur. You know, the first time we talked, we realized that we just are kindred spirits and we have so many common interests. And as we delve a little bit more into the business that you operate, my guests will see how much more we have in common. Let's start there. I'd love for you to introduce my audience to your organization in the luxury travel space. Tell us about that, please.
Gladly. Thank you for asking. So Weave 1,000 Journeys is a bespoke luxury travel company. And I started the company about 12 years ago. And we curate really immersive journeys. In fact, our tagline is bespoke journeys for the inquiring mind, which I think says it all. And it basically is a company that started because I wanted to pull together all my loves, my passion for culinary, for architecture, for art. I wanted to create a company that brought people, spaces, and places together seamlessly. And it's a marvelous thing when you know amazing artisans and people around the world, and to have this opportunity to connect people together. There's really nothing like it. It's superb, and humbling.
Yes. Well, I also wanted to ask you, in one of our conversations, you said it's your parents' fault that you have such wanderlust and that you are all over traveling the world. And so tell us more about your family of origin. Your family sounds like some interesting characters.
Oh, they are. I grew up in a family of black sheep. Let me tell you, as a child, that was hard. When you're like 7, 8, 9, and 10, you're trying to fit in.
Yes.
My parents have always, and my grandparents, they've always followed their own beat. Just to give you an example, my grandfather, he was part of India's freedom movement, and he wore handlooms his entire life. And we had, growing up, I grew up on fabrics and textiles, wearing tailored clothes that were all made of handloom. And I used to be so embarrassed because my parents were these progressive people who fell in love, decided to go against the tide, and where everybody else was wearing nylons and synthetic fabrics, here I was dressed in linens and block patterned vegetable dyed clothes. Oh, I hated it. But it's, and my mother used to do vermiculture, And the conversations at the dinner table would always be about Bauhaus movement in architecture, and Frank Lloyd Wright, and my parents were architects. And ever since I was 8, I've been traveling. I used to love traveling unaccompanied minor, and in fact, even though we would travel together as a family, I tell my parents, "You go on a separate flight. I just want to be. I just want to travel myself. I love the freedom."
Really?
Yeah, and so we actually started our sons. My husband Shamit and I, we started our sons traveling early, just because it's just what we know. And people are like, "Well, how could you do that in this day and age?" I'm like, "No, these kids. It's a beautiful world we live in. It's time they need to go out there and explore and do their thing." And yeah, we've always advocated that.
Well, I think that's wonderful. You're teaching your kids life skills is what you're doing, and you're showing them the world around them. And so you come from this family of very colorful on so many levels people. You also had mentioned something about the women in your family that they are a little bit, how did you say, whiskey drinking a little bit and
Well, listen.
outspoken?
Okay, so let me tell you something. Okay, because this is a true story, right? Um, I was when I turned 25, I'm still unmarried, and my grandmother tells my mom, you guys raised her like this. I mean, she's highly opinionated. I had not met my I had not met my husband, okay, at that point, not yet. It was about to happen. Little did I know. But at that point, I wasn't. And she's like, it's all your fault. You guys have raised her like this. Look how opinionated she is. Who's going to marry this girl? And I'm thinking to myself, going, talk about the kettle calling the pot black. I was
Yes,
like,
indeed.
Nani, have you seen yourself in the mirror? You are all badass women. You have never pulled your punches. I
Hmm.
come from a long line of sarong wearing, whiskey drinking, Himalayan climbing women. You should not be having this conversation with me and all of a sudden expect me to be a wallflower when obviously in my genetics that doesn't exist.
And they fostered this upbringing for you. They in so many ways encouraged it and they modeled it. So, kudos to you. It takes, I think, this kind of worldly and open personality that you have to run the organization, to run your company, because you're curating these, like you say, bespoke luxury experiences for your clients. And so
Yeah.
your worldview and what you've seen and the experiences you've had shape how you curate and form these trips for your clients. And we'll get into that a little bit more, the specifics about your business, but in a moment. But I thought we could shift gears. I know also that you have a culinary background. Please share some information and insights about that.
All right. Look, it seems like a lot of things in my life happened when I was 8. Maybe that's like a thing, right?
Mm.
I don't know. I started cooking when I was 8. And my parents, I've got to tell you, one of the best things that can happen to you when you're young is to have parents who are encouraging and yet um, critical. Okay, and I mean that in the best way. And
Yep.
it's probably not what a lot of parenting styles are in the U.S. right now. But that's what we follow with our sons as well. I never said to them they were going to grow up to be the prince of anything. It was more like, look, you guys, you know, yeah, you're gonna have to work hard, and you're gonna make your bones, and it's gonna hurt, and you'll eventually get there if you're lucky. You know, that's the reality, right? Um, so it's kind of the same thing. I started cooking, and my parents were quite critical. Like I was bad when I first started, but I had a gift. I kept doing it, and I loved uh, haute cuisine. I loved fine dining, and my mother hated cooking. And we'd have these dinner parties, and I would create the menus, and we would do these beautiful dinners, and I just loved it. And so I started writing and teaching when I was very young, and publishing. And I went right through architecture school. In fact, I used my culinary art skills to actually earn money, because the one thing I always knew I was going to do when I was in Australasia, I was going to travel, because I went to graduate school at University of New South Wales in Sydney, and I wanted to travel. I wanted to go see Tasmania. I wanted to travel all around Asia. And then I eventually got hired, for work in Singapore, and that opened up so much of Asia. I met my husband there. So the point is, the culinary has just been entwined with the architecture, and it has never left me. And so, I continued to teach, and then eventually, um, got certifications in food and science, just because I wanted to make sure I understood the science behind it,
Mm.
and taught for our county for 12 years, right up until COVID. So and then also online, and I just love it. So the one thing I will mention is, I think what makes our tours a little bit different is, when you think about culinary tours, you're doing a lot of culinary. Um, that's not what we're about. I think life is all about looking at things spherically, right? You look at it
Yes.
from all sides. It's not just one thing. We, as human beings, our spirit, we need to be fed at different levels, our soul, you know?
Yes.
So, depending on what I always tell people, we got to do what makes your heart go pitter patter. That's what this is about. That's what travel is about. So, yes, of course, we're going to do food walking tours. And of course, I want you to spend time with my favorite friends in the kitchen and just kind of hang out and go to the markets with them and do these amazing dishes. But what else? What about art? Is it that you love? What
Mm-hmm.
about, are you into archaeology? Are you a history buff? Let's do it all. So, do you remember the first time we spoke? I said to you, it's all about finding these gems and creating a necklace. And then when you beat it together, you look at it and you go, ah, that's
Yes.
the trip.
I do
That's the
remember.
trip.
I do remember you saying that because that was one of my talking points. I was going to say I was fascinated with your concept of you find these gems and you weave them together to create this necklace, uh, metaphorically, of course, for your clients. That is this well-rounded experience that it is luxurious, and we'll talk about later in the podcast what luxury travel means to you and your clients. But I loved that you said that. I want to shift gears a moment because you've been addressing architecture. You just couldn't avoid it, in terms of you come from a family of architects. You've got this architectural education yourself. You married an architect, correct?
Yes, and I married a family of architects. So it was
That's
funny. And
right.
yeah, and one of our best friends in Singapore, in fact, where we got married, was an architect. And it was really funny is that when we were at our table just the night before the wedding, we looked around and realized that every single person was an architect, and it was not by design. I, I just think it's hilarious.
It is. You couldn't avoid it. So, there's such a strong connection between architecture and color. And I am an architectural color consultant. You know this. I work on residential
Yes.
and commercial projects. So, where your life and my life, I think, intersect, one of the many areas is this understanding of the importance of color to an architectural project. Now, you're world traveled, so I'm curious to know if you can cite one or two examples of where you think color has played a role in architecture.
Oh my gosh, I think it's intrinsic. I mean, I don't think one could say a role. I think that where one begins, or one ends, the other begins. I mean, I just
You're
don't
right.
think I don't think you could pull it apart.
You're
A
right.
great example for this. I mean, it's funny. The example I'm going to give is about something being taken away to make the point of how important its presence is. And I remember being in East Berlin, and we did this really, really interesting full day walk, learning about the Nazi occupation, the topography of terroir, all of it. And I was struck by the buildings being this very, very dirty shade of brown. Okay,
Yes.
it's like it sucked the oxygen out of its surroundings, and it was really interesting to hear that it was done on purpose by the Nazis, because color is woven into the human spirit. And one of the ways they knew to control people, control their passions, control their spirit, to crush it, is to take that color away, and
Hmm.
forcing people to live in these in surroundings of these horrible brown buildings. It just goes to show how important color is. Another great example is when you we talk about people, okay? Like when you look at a desert landscape, right? It's
Hmm.
all monotone. What happens to the people? They dress in the most vibrant colors, whether it's Morocco in the Sahara Desert, whether it's Rajasthan in India, you see that color and vibrancy come out in the textures, in the colors, in the use of mirrors on the clothes. Oh my gosh, right?
Yes.
Have you?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. You're speaking my language because my background is in this personal imaging world of color where I used to tell women what colors look best on them and how to create a fully accessorized wardrobe. And then I shifted over to the architectural world. And in both of those worlds, they do intersect, they do collide. And we as people, we crave color. And to your point earlier, you can't really dissect color from architecture. They're so intertwined. And I, in my line of work, always say, that without color, you have no project. I say this to designers and architects and builders all the time. Without color, we have no project. And it needs to be specified, factoring in our audience, the demographic, the topography, but also the cultural aspect and the mood or the psychology of it. It's multifaceted. Color and architecture do go hand in hand.
right. And like you said, it's cultural. Especially color is also a way to show diversity.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
which
It's
leads, yeah, that
self-expression. Yeah.
it is. And so speaking of, you come from India, which is this gorgeously colorful country with so much diversity. And I would love for you to talk to us about the use of color, especially in fabrics, in India among all the 28 states. You've got more insights, and I'd love to hear it. We'd love to hear it.
Well, you know, like I said, or like you said, it's 28 states, and each of these states has their own signature styles of block printing and weaving, fabrics, silks, brocades, and also how they drape the fabrics. The tapestry weaves together centuries old traditions. There's cultural symbolism, there's regional influences, artistic expressions. Um, I just think color, texture, textile, fabrics. Oh my gosh, I think it just embodies the essence of India's rich heritage, you know? Um, and all you have to do is go into, take any Indian family and go into your mother's wardrobe and look at her saris, and every wow, it's like life. I mean, you every sari feels different because of
Yes.
the way the embroidery is done and the gold work, and just every one of these has a different style and a different look about them, and it's just mind blowing how every state has its own signature uh, method of weaving and textiles and dyeing and block printing. I mean, Bandhani from Gujarat is completely different to, what they do in Maharashtra or, some of the other states. It's just, or Orissa, it's just fantastic. Um, and I just find it really interesting is that when you look at international brands, whether it's Pottery Barn or any of the international brands, you can see the influence of these fabrics. Um, even like I remember going and purchasing this French tablecloth in Bun, and I'm looking at it going, "This is from India. I recognize this."
You know, you've seen some such thing
I
before.
was like, "Hang on a minute, yeah, I've seen
Well,
this on my mom's table."
Well, I have to tell you that working in architectural color specification here in Houston, which you know is a completely multi-ethnic, multi-global community, I see clients from all different parts of the world who've made Houston their home. And I love working with my clients from India because they embrace color. They don't shy away from it. So when I'm specifying paint or countertops or plumbing and lighting fixtures, those types of materials, we're able to bring in a little bit more color than I am with some of my other clients who might have been born and raised in Texas, for example. So I have a great appreciation for Indian culture, but also their embracing of color and the meaning behind it. So I thought I'd ask you another question. And this was from our first conversation where You said something about how you like to be able to create for your clients, sort of it's a full experience and there's a tactile quality to it. I've heard you describe the Tuscan sun and some stone and other materials. Could you describe for us just one or two small snippets of some colorful experiences you all have when you travel? Just some, I don't know, landscapes or something that's colorful
Yeah,
to you in some kind of way. It could be tactile or it could be visually colorful. I just mean colorful in general.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I think when you think about color, you also have to think about the play of light. Don't you agree?
Exactly. Oh,
Um,
exactly.
oh my gosh, where would there would be no color if there wasn't a play of light. And of course, I mean, I think it's such a cliche, but I think cliches do exist for a reason. And for example, the Tuscan sun. There's really nothing like it, is it? I mean, when
Mm-mm.
you're in Tuscany and you're standing out there in Montepulciano or any of the villages, and you're looking out into the vineyards and the sun is setting, there is no way to describe in words the color, the hue uh, of what it does to the landscape. Don't you agree? It's
I, I,
just
I do agree. And as a color specialist, I have tried to capture some of these things as I've traveled on camera or even paint them. And there is no comparison to what you're witnessing in real life, in real time, because of the light. You're sitting there in the light and you're seeing the light reflect off of the landscape and the water. And it produces this myriad of colors that's just so dimensional and vibrant. And it's inimitable, even in trying to
absolutely.
recreate it in art or try to capture it in in a photograph. So,
Absolutely. One of my favorite architects is Robert Legorada, and he's Mexican, and he plays with these beautiful earth tones,
mm,
ochres and maroon. And you have to look up his architecture. It is gorgeous.
I will definitely do
And
that.
he is just, he uses color, to make, it's part of his architecture. There's no, you couldn't take, you couldn't separate his architecture from color. Another favorite thing to look at, in terms of color is, ah, I love the way some cities and towns, like for example in Puglia, when you're in Lecce, it's one of my absolute favorite places in the world. And a big part of that is the way the Lecce stone, the golden hue of the Lecce stone. There's when you're walking down the narrow streets, there is a softness in the built environment that comes from the softness, the glow of the stone.
Mm.
What is remarkable is at sunset, the whole city goes from golden hue to white because of the play of color. It is
Oh,
so fascinating, Lauren. I can't even tell you. So, one of the things we love doing in our travels is being on, like, Lecce is basically, as you know, in a lot of the Italian towns, it's basically low. There are no high rises. But we love going to the rooftop of a palazzo
mm-hmm.
and kind of having drinks and listening to music at sunset and watching the city turn from gold to white. I mean, to me, that is a luxury experience.
That
Do you
is
know what I mean?
yes, I really do know what you mean because it's something that is unique. You're there in the moment. It's this panoramic experience. You're there with people you love. Hopefully, you're drinking wine, you're experiencing the culture, you're hearing the language spoken, and that color, all those brilliant colors are just the icing on the proverbial cake. So,
Exactly.
okay,
Exactly.
what I'd like to do with the rest of the time that we have is talk really about Weave a Thousand Journeys because there are lots of aspects to your way of travel planning that's really set you apart and that fascinated me and made me want you to be a guest here on the podcast. The first of which, I'd like you to expound upon this. When we first talked, you said that this all started because you wanted to introduce your international friends you met while traveling to your local friends here in the States.
Yes, exactly. Um, it's I've always believed that if you're lucky enough to be good at something, or whatever gifts we have, and God knows we all have incredible gifts. we've all been given incredible talents and gifts. We just have to tap into them.
That's right.
um, I do believe that whatever our strengths are, they're meant to be shared. They're meant, we're not meant to hoard our greatest talents, our greatest gifts. I don't believe that for a minute.
I don't
Uh,
either. I don't. I love that you said that. I really do. Thank you for sharing. I believe I concur completely.
yeah. So it doesn't matter if it's a recipe, or it doesn't matter. Um, do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. I've never had respect for these women who hold up. When somebody asks for a recipe and they hold back this one ingredient, get out of here, stop. Why should you not feel more empowered when another person succeeds? Why so petty, darling?
Exactly. Please, people.
Right. Exactly, please. So anyway, but that's exactly what it is. And in fact, 12 years ago, one of the first trips I created was to Sicily, because I just wanted people to go to Azienda Agricola's, and I want to specifically talk about one of my favorite places there, Mandranova, and to see what Giuseppe and Sylvia have done with olive oil. It was really funny. The first time I met Giuseppe, he said, you know, when my father had this estate, we made the worst olive oil in Sicily. And it's because none of the trees matched.
None of the
And
trees matched.
yeah, and he spent the rest of he spent so much time, I mean, replanting, and now they have these four plus a blended variety of incredible olive oil, and it's the only one. I mean, Sylvia knows I order this every year. It's what we consume in our home. It's nochilada, because I love the grape is very pungent. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful raw on salads to finish. Oh, I love nochilada, and nothing comes close in my
Mm,
opinion. The pungency of nochilada. But the point is, this experience, or whether when you're in Puglia and to see the face of Omer in Lama Pecora. It's this wonderful, wonderful masseria that makes fresh cheese. And this guy, this incredible human being, started doing this when he was 14, and he finally took over, and as a grown man now, and he wakes up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and he's got this hot boiling water next to him, and you can stand in front of him, and he's making this cheese. He's putting the milk and creating mozzarella and bufala mozzarella and all of these other varieties, and just watching him work, and the contentment and the joy in his face. And I'm sitting there nibbling on these cheeses, and with our clients, and I'm looking at Omer going, my God, what joy, a simple life. I can see the cows, I can see the sheep, there are dogs at our feet. We're sitting in this beautiful, again, leche, that like leche stone, this beautiful golden hue masseria, which is a farmhouse, stone farmhouse. And I'm just thinking, my God, pinch me now. This is life. This
it
is
is.
why we live.
Exactly.
And just see that joy in somebody else's face. How can you not want to share that?
That's
Do
right.
you know what I mean?
I do. And I'd have
Yeah.
to tell you that I love talking to you. I love interviewing you right now so much, Deb, because just through the microphone, I can hear your joy and your passion and your love. And more than anything, it seems that it's a love of people. And you had said this earlier. You're in the people business more than
Yeah,
the quote travel business.
you're so true. You're so correct. I always tell my ladies, uh, when I'm on the phone with a new client, I always say, make no mistake, we're not in the travel business. We're in the people business. This is all about connections.
Hmm.
And I've always hated the word networking, because for me, it's not about networking. It's about relationships. That is much more meaningful. People do business with who they love, who they trust.
That's
Period.
right. That's right.
And period. That if you ask me what is that fundamental philosophy in business, this is it. It's about people. And people are not idiots. They can smell a fake person, or a person who is selfish and self-centered, who's only wanting
Hmm.
their connection for monetary gain. They can smell that
They
a
can.
mile away.
Well, in your case, the way that you run your business is you're not going to recommend any travel experience, be it a visit to a winery or a particular region or a particular archaeological site, unless you yourself have been there or one of your team members has been there. These are
Ab-
trips that
yeah,
you know
yeah,
you have your stamp of approval on all of this because you've created these travel experiences along the way for yourself and you're merely sharing them. And then, of course, there's a lot of curation and customization that you provide. But a lot of that takes place because you have these connections in these different countries. And I love your methodology. I love the way that you plan these trips and the fact that you're recommending highly customized journeys for people. And that's not something you're going to find with certainly not with a travel agency. And you're not even in the category of travel agency. This is a whole
no,
experience. This is what you're doing is a
yeah,
whole experience. And did you want to interject something?
yeah. I actually wanted to mention that I always think of us as a travel concierge service. And I wanted to mention this because the fact of the matter is, uh, unlike how do I put it? We never, when I get a call to have a meeting with a client, I'm not sitting here with paperwork or this sort of this binder of tours. And it's not some cookie cutter, oh, option A, option B, and C or D or whatever.
Hmm.
No, it's me simply taking notes. What do you love doing? Okay, what do here's what I'm thinking. Because for me, and I think a lot of it has to come with architecture, because architecture, I've often said I couldn't do what I do if I was not an architect. And a big part of that is not only do you have to have the ability to dream and visualize, but like I say, you have to have the ability to build castles in the air. But then you also have to have the ability to put foundations under them. And that is the engineering side of the brain, where our execution of a trip is flawless, where we are almost OCD about it. We have a 52-point checklist. This doesn't just happen by fluke. These
Right.
trips are seamless. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So
I
there's
do. Absolutely.
creativity. Yeah, there's creativity and vision on one side of the brain, and then there's the execution that is absolutely precise.
Yep.
And I couldn't do this without our wonderful team. We're a team of women long before COVID. We've always been um, digital nomads. Um, you know, one of my team members is Hungarian Swiss. One of my team members is in the Philippines. One of my team members is a complete digital nomad. She's from UK Leeds, but she just in fact was in Turkey and spent the whole summer in Georgia, and I think now she's on her way back to the UK. But she's traveling all the time, and we always say we're like little wheels of a car because it takes all of us for the car to go round and round.
Indeed.
And yeah, and we bring all of these different international perspectives, um, and all of this is towards creating an excellent client experience. That's what this is about. And then
That is.
and yeah, and so we're dedicated, we're hard
You
on
are.
performance, and but we have to be,
You
because our
have to
clients
be.
expect this from
That's
us.
right. And
It's
and
not just about dreaming; it's also about execution.
the execution, correct. And you also have this beautiful added layer, this added dimension to these trips where you all advocate travel with purpose and that I know you have a case, I don't want to call it case study. You have an example to give me with Morocco, where you all in this travel experience are going about intentionally understanding the community and helping local artisans. Could you expound upon that?
Absolutely. So one of the things in Morocco is that, and that's kind of one of the trips we're going to be doing in 2025, and we're going to be featuring it. Is only 25% of the women have jobs. Um, the cooperatives is a way to empower women, to train them, to give them jobs for livelihood. Um, like one of the nonprofits in Marrakesh that we're going to be cooking with, it's about, so all of these women have these amazing talents in the kitchen, but training them for jobs in commercial kitchens so that they can support their families is super important. And us going there and spending the day with them and learning from them and
Mm.
eating with them is our way to support a community. Um, and this is not a concept that is new. In fact, did you know that in 2014, YSL Beauty discovered the stunning quality of these saffron pistils that were grown in these plain regions of the Atlas Mountains, like near Urica?
What did you
And
say?
they
What did I missed it, Deb? You said saffron. Well, I missed the last part.
pistils, saffron pistils, the pistils of the saffron that makes it worth its weight in gold. The
Okay.
pistils. I mean, it's basically, it's one of the most expensive spices in the world.
And yes, it
Uh,
is.
so hard to cultivate and harvest, and you know how it is roasting, and it all has to be hand roasted. It's not a joke. But anyway, the point is the saffron this grew in the Atlas Mountains, and they came up with this idea for a pioneering project that combined cultivation and botanical research. And one of the things I'm so excited about is we're going to take our group to the Urica Community Gardens, which is 20,000 square meters, where it's all devoted to growing and harvesting iconic plants. And one of the things YSL Beauty has required is that one of the ingredients, whether it's pomegranate, marshmallow, iris, jasmine, la di da di da, walnuts, has to be used in their beauty products. And what is even more meaningful is that since 2017, there are these 32 local Berber women from these tribes that basically make sure that the garden is running. They support it. It's a way for them to gain livelihood. And I think what is also more fascinating is that now the community has begun managing these plant nurseries, selling cereals, teas.
Mm.
They're enabling these women to gain financial independence without having to move away from their home. And I think, us supporting, traveling with purpose, meeting people like this, seeing what's happening, I think what I hope with travel, I hope what happens to everyone is you see the world with a softer filter. That's what
Oh,
I think. That's
do,
where I think we
do,
travel. That's why we travel.
do you spoke that so beautifully? That's exactly what you're accomplishing. You are helping people to see the world with a softer focus and to see their trip as an enriching experience, but one where they can immerse in the community and give back in some way and have a better understanding of what really is going on behind the scenes in a destination. What's really going on in the economy? What's really going on with their unemployment rate? What can we do to help this community? And these are small and dignified ways that your clients can help within the community. And I think that's fantastic. I love that you all travel with purpose like that. Let's shift for a moment. We've got some time left. I wanted to talk about this notion of luxury travel because to one person, luxury travel looks like you've got to stay in the five-star resorts and only eat at Michelin rated establishments. But luxury can mean a lot of different things. Could you just share with us what that means to you and your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right, Lauren. Luxury means different things to different people. Um, and like I said, that's why we never have a formula with which we begin a conversation with a client. We never do,
Yep.
because I'm not one to believe in preconceived ideas. You have to you have to cater to what a client wants. What is it that is going to give them the most joy on this trip?
Hmm.
And for some people, uh, I think the word authentic is really important. The word wellness and something that gives them a lot of joy is very important. For some clients, when they say to me, Deb, I don't want to be around crowds and money is no object, then for those people, the private jet is the answer. Do you know what I'm
Hmm.
trying to say?
I do absolutely. People have
For
different ideas of luxury. It's
right,
it's individualized.
right. For my honeymooners, like I work with, some honeymooning couples, and um, we work with all kinds of clients, solo travelers and honeymooners and intergenerational family travel, which is, by the way, one of my favorites, and couples. But like, for example, like a lot of them will say to me, our honeymooners are always the ones with more limited budgets. And they'll say to me, well, Dad, we want to go to Lake Como and La Di Da Di and Amalfi. And I'm like, darling, you cannot afford it on your budget. But I'll tell you what we could do. I
Yeah.
said, do you know that Italy has more than one lake? You don't have to go to Como. You can go to Maggiore. You can go to Garda. We can do something amazing that you love, where you don't have to spend the money that Como and Amalfi require. So there is a solution. There are ways. We focus on what's important, and I always tell them, look, when you come to me, there are two ways we can do this. Either you give me a budget and you say, Dav, we will do the best we can for that amount of moolah in the pot. Or you
Moolah
say
in the
to me,
pot.
yeah, right. Or you say to me, hey, I want to go for 3 weeks. Money's no object. I said, but you can't have both.
That's
That's just
right.
the reality. You
That's
can't
right.
be like, because at that point, you're just, you're suffering from champagne taste on a water budget. And we can't have that either.
That's funny. Well, I want to interject something about how I perceive luxury. Okay. So, some of my most luxurious travel experiences have been where I'm staying at one of the least expensive places ever, but I was able to find really beautiful places off the beaten path and little water holes or little beachside areas where only the locals know about. So, it's not crowded with tourists. For me, that's what luxury looks like, but it's going to be different for everybody. So, I appreciate your insights on that. I wanted to talk about a couple of other very important things before we close it out today. And you talked about your experiences in Portugal, and that Portugal has a beautiful concept. It's a beautiful construct. It's called confrachas, and I'll let you explain it. And it has to do with the country maintaining their cultural heritage through the, again, maintenance of some of these culinary recipes. Could you share with us about confrachas, if I'm pronouncing it right,
Yes,
confrachas?
yes, yes, you are. So, Lauren, we were talking about luxury and the definition of luxury. This to me is a definition of luxury. When something is authentic, to me, it's really, really luxurious. And a great example is through a architect friend of mine in Aveiro. She So let me first explain what a confracha is. A confracha translates into brotherhood, and it's basically an incredible concept, social construct, if you will, where villages all around Portugal have these gastronomic centers or brotherhoods, and these are people from all walks of life. I mean, you could be sitting at a table in a confracha, and the guy next to me, I remember Alberto whispering to me and says, "Hey, did you know that this guy is one of the richest guys in Portugal? Do you know how much real estate he owns? And that guy is a heart surgeon, and that guy is one of the top attorneys." I mean, these are people from all walks of life,
Okay.
and they come together to um, to support, to encourage, to make sure that traditional recipes are are not messed with. Basically, they keep those traditions alive, and in some cases, it could be an ingredient. In some cases, it could be a recipe. And so, anyway, through this friend of mine who's an architect in Aveiro, we were able to be invited to Confracha. Her father is one of the main people in one. And I remember showing up with our clients, and there was this beautiful old traditional fishing boat sitting on the marshes. And we got into it, and it has all these bright colors, by the way, and it's made of wood. And there were these coolers full of uh, port wine. That, by the way, her father makes fantastic port wine. And now
Mm.
I can't go to any of the commercial sellers. I'm so ruined. I can't even tell you. But anyway, I'm like, can I get another bottle, please? Mine's over. It's been a year. I'm
You
shameless.
need more.
Yeah, I need more. But anyway, so we get in this boat and these coolers, and there's pork, and there's that's been cooked for 72 hours, and there's bread and cheeses, and we're sitting and nibbling, looking at all this wildlife, looking at the birds, and the family is explaining to us about what they do and how they fish in these waters. And then we come to shore, and they take us to this. We enter the space. It's basically like a tin shed. It's got like a tin roof. And everywhere around us in this courtyard, tables have been set up and people are cooking. And one of the signature ingredients from this village is baby eels. And I remember this pot being like 2 feet in diameter and huge. And this gentleman, and by the way, they wear the berets and they wear their capes with their own traditional colors for their confracha. So it's really very serious, you know.
Mm.
And they're cooking this beautiful stew with onions. I remember I mean, I just remember looking at it going, my gosh, this is amazing. The simplicity of it and eventually how delicious it was. But it was basically onions and potatoes and baby eels, a little bit of turmeric, lovely olive oil, and saffron. And they were cooking this stew, and I remember having it, and you know, thinking, my gosh, this is the best thing we've eaten in Portugal. And that's, you know, I mean, we've had Michelin dinners, right? But this, and with all of this food, with the fruit and the pork and the vegetables and the side dishes, what a feast. You know, it's been a couple of years because we went pre-COVID. We still talk about it. I still have clients who
Yeah.
talk about it, who, because what was special is we were the first set of foreigners ever to be invited to this confrancia.
And this is a result of these connections that you already had begun making.
These relationships, that's what it's about.
That's the
It's about the
relationships.
friendships.
And
Yeah,
it's because everyone you've met internationally can sense your deep love for other people, other culture, other experiences, and your desire to connect your local US friends to their cultures, to these other international cultures. And so your authenticity is what shines through here and enables you to forge these wonderful relationships and then be invited to be in this world, to have these experiences, because not very many people get to do a confracha or go to a confracha.
that's true, Lauren. But you know, I mean, it's very, very sweet of you to say so. But honestly, you know that saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in really bad company.
I do say that often, actually. Yes, I know it.
Right? I don't ever have to worry about that. You know what I mean? It's you go through life, older I'm getting, you realize that you know the true gems in this world are the people and what they bring to the table, and whether it's dedication, whether it's passion, and whatever you think you are, you're going to meet somebody who's going to blow your mind, and you're going to look at them and go, my God, you're amazing.
Mm, you are
So
so right.
you know, and so I'm really blessed. I mean, with the support of my family, and nobody can do this alone, by the way. That's one thing. I have incredible support system in my friends and my husband, who, you know, all those years I traveled to learn, because you know, that's what it is, right? I mean, it's sharing my own personal experiences and all of that, but meeting these people, and it's just, you know, just being able to travel so extensively throughout the year is a blessing, and not one I take for granted at all. And
Yes.
of course, my understanding sons, who, you know, it's incredible. You know, I was joking the other day. I was telling my husband, isn't it funny that you spent your whole life um, teaching them to be independent, and then I just am a little sad that they no longer need me because,
I can relate to that completely.
you know,
My three are now officially grown, and sometimes I wonder, don't you need your mama anymore? And they
I
kind of
know
don't in a lot of ways. They do in some ways, but we raise our children to become independent,
exactly, because when I'm
law-abiding
traveling,
citizens.
right? Because when I'm traveling, they're doing these meals, they're cooking, and it's like you know, walk in the park. Yeah, mom, we did this. We did your sardine pasta with, you know, the one with bucatini from Sicily. We did that one with dill.
Yes, I do know
That's
it.
my favorite. Do you know
Ooh, I
that one?
love.
Oh
I
my
do.
gosh.
Yes, I do. Because last
I
year I lived with for a brief period of time my Sicilian American friend, and her mother would come and visit, and everything was about food all the time. These people talk about food. And my background, my heritage is part Italian, Sicilian, but I grew up in the States, so I'm not really culturally Italian. But Buddy, my friend, is, and we ate some really good food. So yes, bucatini for sure, the all of that. So, well, Dev, I've saved my best question for last. It's what I ask all
Ooh,
of my guests. I ask every guest this, and I cannot wait for your answer. What does it mean to you to live a colorful life?
love. Um, love in all things. being surrounded by loving people, um, being, I think where there is love, uh, a lot of things open up. When there is love, there's understanding, and there is a possibility to see the world from another perspective. And I think that that's what it is. It's love, and because of love and because of being open-hearted, you can welcome other cultures, other people, other experiences, other foods, other ways of architecture, other ways of textiles, whatever. It's all woven together by love.
That's right.
If
Oh,
you don't have love in your heart, you know what? You know, when I meet, one of the things, and I think you're like me, Lauren. I'm pretty sure of this. We don't do business with people we don't like. I mean, if somebody is just nasty, okay, you're going to find this funny, but do you know I have a no grumps clause in my agreement with my clients, and that they have to actually sign that says no grumps allowed on our tours, and that means
but you have to do that because one person will ruin your whole doggone tour. Really.
right, and we don't want people who are disrespectful to our travel partners, to our architects, to our chefs,
Yep.
to all of the people who are the foundations and the pillars of why we're able to do what we do. I mean,
Hmm.
myself and my company, we stand on the shoulders of all of these incredible people. Do you
Yes,
know what I mean? So
I do.
the point I'm trying to make is, I think that's what it is. I think if you have love and caring and open heartedness, you will invite a lot of the positivity. Like, I mean, look at us. I mean, the way
Yeah.
we connected. Oh my gosh, what a gift.
And I tell
And
you, I
yeah,
cannot wait to meet you in person. And I really will make a trip up there to the DC area at some point to meet you in
and
person and chat and talk about life and business and all those things that we've already begun discussing.
right. And when I'm in Houston, I mean, can you imagine how long our dinner's gonna go?
It's going to go very long. We will have
It's
so
gonna be
much
like
fun
six
talking.
hours. Oh,
And
absolutely.
I'm going to plan for you to be just with me the whole day. So, as we wrap this up, how may my audience get in touch with you? You know, I've got listeners on every habitable continent from season one, and it's and about 170 cities now. So, how may people reach out to you to begin planning their travel experiences?
Oh, that's so sweet of you to ask. Well, it's pretty simple. Our website is weave1000journeys.com. We're on Instagram, Weave Journeys, and we're on Facebook and LinkedIn. So just Weave 1,000 Journeys, and we come up.
Perfect. And for my listeners, as always, in the description section of this podcast, you will see a link to all of Dev's contact information and handles. And so, Dev, I just have to thank you. I just teared up a little bit there when you were talking about love is what to you signifies a colorful life. I could not agree more. And I want to thank you for giving so generously of your time and being here and sharing such rich, cultural, colorful stories with us. This is exactly what my podcast is about. And you have been a stellar guest. I really thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. And let me just tell you, you make it easy.
Well,
Because listen, like I said, we can only give what we've got, and you've got a lot of love and open-heartedness to give, and it's so easy to give back. So thank you so much for having me here today.
well, and you are so welcome, and I appreciate the compliments. And lastly, I almost forgot to mention this to my audience. Both you and I are studying Italian right now, and
Oh
so
gosh, a
I first
presto.
a presto. I see in the future that you and I could be there together, enjoying some wine and some cheese, and practicing our slightly broken but better than elementary Italian, hopefully.
Absolutely,
So
that would be so good. We're gonna run through the streets going andiamo, andiamo.
andiamo, andiamo. Allora, so
Allora,
anyway,
exactly.
to my beautiful guests all around the world, as always, I thank you for tuning in. I'm so happy that you're here with us today for the launch of the second season. You will be hearing from guests all over the world. But as I alluded to in the conclusion of season one, I will be interviewing a lot of folks right here in Houston because we have such a multi-global community right here in my city. So I hope you all have a beautiful week. And until next time, stay colorful. Bye bye. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Coloring My Way Across the Globe. I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation, and we would love to stay connected with you throughout the week. The best way to connect is by subscribing to our newsletter at www.lfbcolor.com. That's www.l as in Lauren, f as in Frank, b as in boy, color, color.com. Also, you may find us on Instagram using the same handle, LFBcolor, for the latest stories, podcast guest profiles, travel photography, language learning diaries, and my own colorful art. Hope to see you there, friends. Thank you again.